welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching Primetime Asia on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. US President Donald Trump will host leaders from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan at the White House today to strengthen ties. The summit aims to secure US access to the region's vast uranium, copper and rare earth reserves as Washington seeks to reduce dependence on Russia and China for critical minerals. Toyota, Honda and Suzuki are investing over $11 billion to expand car production and exports in India, marking a major shift away from China as Japanese automakers restructure global supply chains. Japan's direct investment in India's transport sector have soared sevenfold since last year alone. Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi has announced a Japan-US rare earth mining project near Minamitori Island, Japan, in 1,900 kilometers southeast of Tokyo, with tests at 6,000 meters depth set for January, while reports also show Japan plans to revise its foreign investment law this year to tighten national security screening, marking the first major update since 2019. The U.S. State Department has declared that Taiwan must be granted full and equal participation when China hosts the 2016 APEC summit in Shenzhen, rejecting Beijing's attempts to impose conditions under its One China policy. Taiwan, which participates in APEC as Chinese Taipei, accused Beijing of unfair restrictions. At least 140 people are dead and 127 missing after Typhoon Kalma-Egi triggered catastrophic flooding across central Philippines. Officials say the storm is now moving towards Vietnam as rescue teams struggle to reach cut-off areas. China's Commerce Ministry has stated that it is open to reviving trade for investment talks with the European Union, signaling interest in a deal similar to the frozen 2021 EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment amid rising global trade tensions. Thailand's King Maha Vajiralongkorn will make a historic state visit to China from November 13th to 17th, marking the very first visit by a Thai monarch since diplomatic ties began in 1975. The invitation by President Xi Jinping coincides with the 50th anniversary of China-Thailand relations. According to Russian officials, Ukraine has launched at least 75 drones into Russia today, killing one person in Volgograd and igniting a fire near a major refinery. The attack has disrupted dozens of flights across Russia as Kyiv continues targeting oil infrastructure to weaken Moscow's economy amid reported Russian advances in eastern Ukraine. Now we start with Central Asia and US President Donald Trump will be meeting with the leaders of 5 Central Asian nations at the White House today. This meeting comes as the US seeks to increase its influence in a region that's dominated by Russia and currently gaining attraction from China. Bringing together the US and 5 Central Asian countries including Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. It's the C5 is the C5+1 platform, which was established in 2015 to promote cooperation on economic, energy, and security matters. Now, these talks will be focusing on countering China and Russia's influence, particularly in the area of Central Asia's vast mineral resources. Under President Trump, the U.S. has been working to secure new mineral partnerships to reduce its dependence on China and Russia. It is important to note that the Central Asian region is rich in minerals like uranium, copper, gold, and rare earths, which are essential for global energy transitions and nuclear power. As per data reports, the U.S. currently relies on Russia for about 20% of its imported uranium, making the diversification of resources a critical goal. Now, for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General G.G. Dwivedi. He's an international relations and defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General G.G. Dwivedi, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, do you think that U.S. moving to secure a deal or become closer with these 5 Central Asian countries, is it too late, as we know that they have very close ties with Russia, also looking at their history of being under Soviet Union in the past?
Well, Asuma, firstly, always a pleasure to be on the NewsX world.
Thank you.
Well, absolutely, you're right. The Central Asian Republic, the 5 countries what you named, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, all the 5 countries were part of the erstwhile Soviet Union. And it's after the Soviet Union broke up, well, these 5 countries also became independent. But nonetheless, Soviet influence still is there, that is, the Russian influence still is there because these countries were, after all, part of the Soviet Union. But at the same time, even China has also developed very close ties because they are neighbors China. And this region, Central Asian Republic, is actually a very strategically important region because it constitutes almost 60% of the Eurasian landmass. And these ties have been actually formalized through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where the 4 countries, but for Turkmenistan, are members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And the Chinese have invested uh, large sums of money, uh, primarily in infrastructure as part of the Belt Road Initiative. So therefore, I think you are right that Americans or US is slightly late entrant, but nonetheless, in 2015, there was the agreement signed between the C5 and America to develop closer ties with these countries and also try to wean away these countries from China and Russia. And currently, America is trying to diversify its acquisition of rare earth material, minerals, and also the other critical minerals like uranium, copper, and coal. So therefore, this agreement and calling these 5 presidents to the White House primarily is to diversify the American supply chain, reduce dependence upon Russia and China, and to develop closer ties with these Central Asian Republic because the world over the supply chains are being realigned, and therefore this is the American effort to develop closer ties with these 5 countries and also develop more engagement, especially as far as the rare earth minerals are concerned, and particularly uranium. Kazakhstan almost has the 40% of the global production, and America depends on Russia for the uranium needs. So what I can say is that this is the effort by the Americans to develop closer ties with the Central Asian republics and also to realign the supply chains and reduce dependence upon China and Russia. Therefore, this meeting is very important, and I'm sure that this will have certain degree of impact to develop closer ties between these countries and America. Asuma.
Right. And Major General, do you think that this could escalate or provoke greater tensions between U.S. with Russia and China? And how does this C5+1 platform reflect U.S.'s evolving approach towards Central Asia?
Definitely, because Central Asian region is an arena for the uh, big power rivalry, and therefore the tensions to some extent would be there. But today, all the countries are engaging in multilateral forums, and it's not a zero-sum game. So these Central Asian republics also would like to diversify their supply chains and also their trade ties beyond the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So to that extent, I think in today's world, multilateralism is the currency, and every country tries to pursue their own interest, and also diversification is the order of the day. So I don't think that the tension will be heightened because the traditional ties between Central Asian Republic, China, and Russia are there because they are part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But today we are talking about political economy. So in a political economy, diversification is very much accepted. To that extent, I don't think it's a zero-sum game, but yes, America developing closer ties, the Chinese and Russians will be closely watching, but inherently they have deep-rooted ties, the Central Asian Republic with China and Russia. So to that extent, I don't think it's going to be a major tension, and more so, after the meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping at Busan in South Korea, they are talking about the G2. That means the two big powers actually creating a new world order. So I think that this adjustment will be part of the political economy, but it would not give rise to tension. But nonetheless, diversification, multilateralism is the currency of today's geopolitics, and I think these Central Asian republics have certain degree of autonomy to pursue their national interests and diversify. So I leave it at that. Asuma.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Major General Gigi Dwivedi for joining us as an international relations and defense expert from New Delhi. Thank you very much. Now we move on to North America. In Canada, the Council of Mississauga has passed a resolution to officially recognize anti-Hindu hate amid ongoing Hindu-phobic attacks in the city. As per the official resolution, Mississauga is home to one of Canada's largest Hindu communities, and yet anti-Hindu incidents are frequent in the region, which includes vandalism of temples, targeted misinformation, and online harassment about local Hindu events and harassment of Hindu students, which has created anxiety among residents. It also reaffirmed the city's commitment to protecting freedom of religion and belief for all as enshrined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. According to a recent study by the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, there has been a 227% rise in hate crimes targeting South Asians, primarily Hindus between 2019 and 2023, alongside thousands of posts using anti-Hindu slurs. The resolution was passed as the Hindu community marked the first anniversary of the medieval-style invasions of Hindu temples on 3rd November 2024, a day of violence that sent the Hindu community into deep shock across Canada. Now for this discussion, we are welcoming Kolsanjit Sirohi. He's an international relations and defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, looking at this, how significant is Mississauga's recognition of anti-Hindu hate for shaping Canada's broader approach to combating religious discrimination? And what measures can these local and federal governments take to ensure stronger protection for minorities?
Suma, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, this is very important development, and this is most important is because Canada is home to about 1 million Hindus, and same goes with the United States, where there are 4 million Hindus who are residing there. Now, this Hindu phobia, which has been passed, the best thing about this thing is that firstly, it has been done in coalition with the Coalition of Hindu of North America. It is an organization which is working both in Canada and in North America. And it is their endeavor to make sure that the Hindu phobia which is there has to be condemned, and it has to be removed in the minds of the people who are the local people of Canada. They may be Canadians, or they are all Canadians, but in this, the major issue is with the Khalistanis, who are also getting involved in this Islamophobia. Now, the best part is that it has been recognized and it has been condemned. And it is the second, Mississauga City Council is the second council where they have recognized this aspect and they have taken action on this. Now, this temple vandalism, misinformation, and harassment, especially of Hindu students, and this harassment is not only physical harassment, it is online harassment also. And as you have brought out, that Institute of Strategic Studies has already brought out that from 1919 to 23, there has been increase of 227% against the South Asian, in which the major share goes to the Hindu. So I think it is the right step, and my recommendation is that all other municipalities in Canada, in America also, they must recognize this phenomena and they must condemn it with the full force, so that the people who are even thinking of this, carrying out the Islamophobia, the Hinduphobia, they are forced not to do it. Now this has already been, anti-Semitism has already been condemned, Islamophobia has been condemned. Now it is the time for Hinduphobia to be recognized and condemned both in Canada and in North America. Asuma.
And building on that, how does this online misinformation contribute to the rise of religiously motivated hate crimes? And what do you think, what policies could counter it? And also, what role should community organization and educational institutions play in addressing and preventing further Hinduphobia in Canada?
Look, Asuma, the first thing what the government has to do is, as it is already enshrined in their Charter of Duties, that they have to ensure the protection of freedom of religion and belief for all. So since this is already in the Charter of Rights and Freedom in the Canadian Constitution, the government must take strict action. The police force must ensure that any incident of Hinduphobia is taken very seriously, and the person who is getting involved is punished accordingly. Number one. Number two is that in the universities, in the colleges, there has to be proper motivation and proper education for all the students who are they are studying there, that all this type of discrimination against any religion, whether it is Islam or it is Israel or it is Hindu or any other religion, has to be condemned, and this has to be told to the students in very strict sense, and any students who get involved physically or online must be thrown out of that university. Now, as regard the Hindus are concerned, they must also make an endeavor, and they must also educate their neighbors and other people, so that this type of activity does not take place and people live in harmony in both Canada and in America, where this Hinduphobia is maximum. And since the population of Hindus are increasing both in Canada and USA, the steps have to be taken. The Canadian people have started taking this action, and my distinct suggestion to the Americans are also that they must also start taking strict action against all those who are believing in Hinduphobia. Asuma.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Colonel Sanjit Sirohi for joining us as an international relations and defense expert from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Colonel. Now we move on to Asia. South Korea's Prime Minister Kim Min-sok has stated that the South Korean-owned Philly shipyard in the U.S. currently lacks the capability to build a nuclear-powered submarine. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump approved a request by South Korea to construct a nuclear-powered submarine at the Philadelphia shipyard. Trump's approval followed a summit with South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung, who has asked for permission to build submarines powered by nuclear fuel but equipped with conventional weapons. Kim has clarified that as of now, the Philly shipyard does not have the necessary capabilities to build such submarines. South Korea's Defense Minister An Gyu-bak has also mentioned that while it's rational to build the submarines in South Korea, given its shipbuilding expertise, the issue has not yet been discussed with the U.S. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has emphasized that the Trump administration would collaborate with the Departments of State and Energy to fulfill the president's commitment on the submarines. Now we move on. U.S. State Department has stated that Taiwan must be allowed full and equal participation when China hosts APEC next year. This comes as Taipei complained that Beijing had added a lot of conditions to its attendance. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation is one of the only international bodies Chinese claimed Taiwan is a member of, and next November's summit in Shenzhen will come as relations between Taipei and Beijing have plummeted amid a stepped-up Chinese military pressure campaign against the island. China's foreign ministry has stated earlier this week that Taiwan's participation in APEC activities must comply with the One China principle, which Beijing views as meaning both sides of the Taiwan Strait belong to one country, something Taipei's government rejects. A State Department spokesperson has stated that APEC members had agreed by consensus last year to China's offer to host APEC in 2026, and the APEC members remain committed to all members' participating on an equal footing in all APEC events. U.S. State Department has stated that Taiwan must be allowed full and equal participation when China hosts APEC next year. This comes as Taipei has complained that Beijing had added a lot of conditions to its attendance. The Asia-Pacific Economic Forum, Economic Cooperation is one of the only international bodies Chinese claimed Taiwan is a member of. And next November's summit in Shenzhen will come as relations between Taipei and Beijing have plummeted amid a stepped-up Chinese military pressure campaign against the island. China's foreign ministry has stated earlier this week that Taiwan's participation in APEC activities must comply with the One China principle, which Beijing views as meaning both sides of the Taiwan Strait belong to one country, something Taipei's government rejects. A State Department spokesperson said that APEC members had agreed by consensus last year to China's offer to host APEC in 2026, and the APEC members remain committed to all members participating on an equal footing in all APEC events. Now for this discussion, we welcome Colin Chong-Yu-Keat. He's in Foreign Affairs, Security and Strategy Analyst, joins us live from University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, looking at Taiwan's upcoming participation in APEC, how do you think would Taiwan do? How might Taiwan's participation next year test the limits of China's One China policy?
Well, we have seen how the Taiwan issue has been a main debacle and is increasingly being used as a pretext by Beijing to force concessions and to accuse other players of violating the One China policy. And we have to realize that it is an economic platform. It is APEC, and and it doesn't have to be used as convenient front by Beijing to force other players to conform to his own perception of his norms or principles of the One China policy. So as what has been occurring now for the past week now with Japan's action on Prime Minister of Takaichi meeting with some advisors to the presidential office of Taiwan, and this is being used by Beijing to accuse Tokyo and to accuse Takaichi of violating the One China policy. So we have seen how this is a convenient excuse, and it shouldn't be that way. And Taiwan has its own economic liberty to increase its own economic prosperity within the rules and the norms of the One China policy. So I don't see this as an utter violation of the sovereignty and principles of the One China policy as has been accused by Beijing so far.
And do you think could these disputes over Taiwan's role in APEC further strain cross-strait relations or cancel its upcoming participation in APEC summit for Taiwan next year?
Well, we have seen the same thing happening now with the intent, the bid by Taiwan to be also part of different global organizations, especially the World Health Organization. And Taiwan has been stating that it has been left out from the intended benefits of the global multilateral platform, especially on issues that are close to the heart of the people and which are pertinent to the lives of the people, of the Taiwanese people, with regards to health, with regard to safety and security. So this economic fundamental issue also shouldn't be used as a bargaining chip. So with regards to the participation and that being used as a convenient platform, I will see that Taiwan will have the back, we have the support of like-minded allies and supporting players, including Japan, increasingly including from Southeast Asia, and to push back against the narrative by Beijing. And we have also seen how Trump has maintained the policy of strategic ambiguity, but notwithstanding so, the support, the readiness by Trump to also show full support to Taiwan, and Taiwan can also be used as a great factor in terms of Trump's overall capacity and negotiating card with President Xi. So I don't see that to be in the negative favor of Taiwan. I will see that in the months to come, Taiwan will have a lot of backing in terms of economic and security perspective, especially under the watch of President Trump.
And building on that, Professor, what diplomatic challenges does U.S. in particular face in advocating for Taiwan's equal participation in international forums that are hosted by China?
Now, what we have seen, even layovers by, some leaders of Taiwan in the U.S. are also being used, as a front by Beijing, and we have seen that have also caused, reservations, and we have also seen this ruckus being caused by Pelosi's visit a couple of years ago, and this shouldn't be a factor. And as much as the calculations are made within the within the normative rules of the One China policy, and without violating the One China policy by the U.S., the U.S. has stated repeatedly that it still respects the One China policy. By receiving these visits, they don't by any way violate the intent by U.S. to of the One China policy. So there's no intent at all by Washington to violate this order or to recognize the independence of Taiwan at the expense of Beijing. So we don't see that happening. And President Trump knows this. And of course, there won't be any intent towards that part, because knowing that how it will be used by President Xi to accuse Washington of causing these violations, and which will then be used as a convenient pretext for Beijing to up the ante of further confrontations, and also of course to use the tariff measures as part of the action. So I don't see that happening. This move by Washington to use Taiwan as a bargaining chip to further strain the ties with Beijing. President Trump knows this better.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Professor Collins Chong-Kyu-Keat for joining us as a Foreign Affairs Security and Strategy Analyst from Kuala Lumpur. Now we move on and we stay in the region. The death toll from Typhoon Kalmaegi in the Philippines has now risen to 114 people, with 127 still missing. The storm has regained strength as it moved towards Vietnam, where 350,000 people have been evacuated due to expected flooding and damaging winds. In Cebu Island, the hardest hit province, floodwaters have revealed flattened homes and overturned vehicles. Over 200,000 people were evacuated before the storm, with many returning to destroyed homes and starting cleanup. The new storm developing east of Mindanao could strengthen into a typhoon, raising concerns for next week. Kalmaegi is the 20th storm to hit the Philippines this year and comes just after a deadly earthquake in Cebu. Authorities in Vietnam are mobilizing for evacuations and recovery, with airport operations in Vietnam expected to be impacted. And that's a wrap on Primetime Asia. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.